Well, you've become such an old lady.
What the heck? Out of the blue.
When you've been married for 10 years, a woman sure does change.
It goes both ways, you know?
I haven't changed much since we got married, but you've turned into a complete middle-aged woman.
Seriously, what's up with that? Your hair's a mess, and you don't even bother with makeup. You look every bit the old lady.
Why even say that?
I'm swamped with housework and taking care of my father-in-law. I don't have time to doll myself up, nor can I be bothered with it. You'd think that would be obvious. My name is Catherine Wilson, 38 years old. I got married to Robert when I was 28 through a mutual friend's introduction. I never met my Miles since she passed away before we got married, but she looks so kind in photos. According to my file, she was a very generous and big-hearted person. I wish I could have met her at least once. I continued working even after getting married, but 3 years in, my then 61-year-old Fulio had a stroke, paralyzing half his body. That's when I quit my job to care for him. He'd been working at a care facility for many years and had just retired the previous year. I can't even begin to imagine how frustrating it must be for him, considering he was looking forward to enjoying his free time. It broke my heart. I thought that being there for my fifth-wheel would make a difference, but Robert hardly helps around the house or with caregiving. It was tough, sure, but my Phil was always considerate and looked out for me, so it wasn't all bad. A Carfio, honestly, dealing with Robert after he came home from work was much more challenging. He'd always be going on about how he's hungry, or if the bath is ready, or where's this or that. He'd ask the same questions nearly every day, increasing my workload. He doesn't care when I'm busy taking care of his dad, and he never expresses any gratitude. To be honest, I was always relieved when Robert had to work late or on weekends. It felt more draining to take care of him than my ailing Phil. What was worse, taking care of him stressed me out. Just with my Phil, just a simple thank you or sorry makes all the difference. But Robert just takes everything for granted and keeps demanding stuff, leaving me emotionally exhausted. It's when it's just my file and me, we're content with whatever food's available, and he never complains. I know it's a lot. He'd often apologize, saying, "I'm sorry," and I'd feel bad for not doing more for him. Despite the challenges, I enjoyed talking to my fifth Beal, and being with him always felt comforting. My own dad passed away when I was in elementary school, so I often found myself thinking that if he were alive, he'd be a lot like my Phil. My mother, who raised me alone, was always met with words of concern and gratitude from my Phil. In contrast, Robert has never shown me the same kindness.
Even after I quit my job to care for his dad, Robert would snap at me saying, "I'm the one bringing home the bacon. You're in no position to complain."
Before we got married, I thought he was much kinder, but he's become more arrogant over the years, especially after his dad got sick. To be honest, I've thought about divorce many times. I could tell it broke my Phil's heart to see how Robert treated me. One day, my father-in-law made a suggestion, and I followed his advice. "Don't worry about me, Catherine. Focus on your own life." He'd often say this to me, but hearing him say that made me want to be there for him even more. Plus, he's knowledgeable, and even with his physical limitations, he teaches me interesting things. He's shown me that you can learn at any age. And so, 7 years passed since my father-in-law had his stroke. Lately, Robert has been acting a bit strangely. He's constantly checking himself out in the mirror. He started buying men's cologne and moisturizers, even though he used to make fun of men who did. And now he's even joined a gym. Maybe he's become more self-conscious as he approaches 40, but he's making more and more snide remarks about my appearance.
You really do look old. No matter how I look at you, you seem older than me. It's sad to think you're my wife.
You're not exactly young yourself, you know?
Everyone says I look much younger than I am.
Who's everyone?
Well, everyone.
You've been paying a lot of attention to your grooming lately, even using cologne.
That's just basic grooming.
Huh, you never used to care about that stuff before?
Appearances matter. In sales, it's not like you just cooped up at home all day.
I'd rather have someone work on self-improvement than hurl insults at me. It would certainly spare me from feeling down. Besides, when he stops by the gym after work and comes home late, he's usually had dinner with his gym buddies, so it saves me some effort. But whether Robert does whatever he pleases, as long as my days are peaceful, that's good enough for me. However, one day, out of the blue, my father-in-law passed away. He caught a cold which turned into pneumonia, and just like that, he was gone. He was like a pillar of support for me. I was truly devastated and heartbroken. It felt like a gaping hole had opened up in my heart. I'd remember his smile and just break down in tears.
Stop being so dramatic. It's not even your own parent.
We took care of him for almost 7 years. It's natural for me to be sad.
You should get a job already. At this rate, you're just being a leech.
It hasn't even been a month since he passed. Can't you be a little more sensitive? Aren't you sad? He was your dad.
He was bedridden for nearly 7 years. She was a burden. I actually feel relieved now.
That's so cruel.
After my father-in-law's death, Robert showed no signs of sympathy or grief. As I was deeply disappointed with Robert's behavior, it made me question, was he always like this? And then, right after the mourning period ended, Robert announced with a cheerful face,
Saying now that Dad's gone and I don't need you anymore, I'm thinking of getting a divorce. As they're talking about, I no longer need you around since we're not taking care of my dad anymore, so a divorce?
A divorce?
Yes, and actually my mistress is pregnant. I'm going to meet her parents today, fill out the divorce papers and get out.
It made sense. I had a feeling something was up. I noticed Robert, who never cared about fashion, suddenly dressing up, going to the gym, and admiring himself in the mirror. Sometimes, when he came home late, I'd smell a different shampoo on him. I suspected he might have found someone else. He said he'd showered after the gym, but his overtime days were increasing. Previously, he'd leave for work reluctantly, but lately, he seemed eager. Anyone would notice that something was off with such behavior. But I lost interest in what Robert was up to, so I didn't ask him anything. As long as my father-in-law and I could live in peace, I didn't mind Robert doing as he pleased. However, I didn't expect him to drop such a bomb right after the mourning period.
Here are the divorce papers. My new girl is in her 20s. Anyone would choose her over an old hag like you, right? Mike's saying that he handed me the already filled divorce papers.
You just have to sign. In fact, I had planned to leave once we laid my father-in-law to rest, so this might be for the best. It certainly saved me the hassle.
Every such an easy, but now I've got some vacation days saved up, so I think I'll go on a trip with her. Once she starts showing, it'll be hard to travel leisurely.
Oh, I see.
I'll give you 2 weeks. I'll be back then. So have your stuff packed and leave.
All right, I'll do as you said.
Good. It seems like you understand your place. I mean, an old woman like you isn't right for me. Her laughs. Now that Dad's gone, it'll be just me and her living here.
Antaji, he has no idea.
Without saying anything more, I walked to the back room. Robert looked at me, seeming satisfied. The next day, he left with a spring in his step. Watching him, I decided to act.
All right, time to get things done.
I had to settle everything in 2 weeks. Find a new place, get in touch with movers. There was so much to do. No time for a break. 2 weeks later, a furious call came in from Robert.
Hey, what the hell did you do to my house? Why are strangers living there? I'll sue you for, messing around like that. So I'll sue you for messing around like that.
He turns, I didn't do anything to your house. Besides, I had no idea about any of this.
I'm play dumb. This is the house where I grew up.
You mean my house?
What are you talking about?
If you're referring to the house we lived in, it's no mine.
This is originally my father's house. Now that he's passed away, I'm the heir. You have no rights to it. Give it back.
You really have no clue, do you?
That house indeed belonged to my father-in-law. However, that was the story up until 3 years ago. See, my father-in-law, even before his retirement, loved reading financial magazines. He often made stock market predictions. This didn't change even when he became bedridden. In fact, he'd say that he had more time to analyze various bits of information and would share his insights with me. His intuition was remarkable, often accurately predicting stock movements. Finding it intriguing, I learned quite a bit from him. I once told him, considering his knack for predictions, he should invest himself. But he'd just say he had no need for extra money, and that merely observing the world and making predictions was entertaining enough. Encouraged by him, I started investing. It felt like a quiz, guessing which stocks would rise or fall. It was fun. Even though I was just making guesses, he'd always reassure me, "Catherine, you have better foresight than I do. Looks like my guidance, you'll be fine." Perhaps he had already given up on his son, who showed no interest in the family's affairs and never helped out. I realized this 3 years ago. By then, with his guidance and my savings before marriage, I had accumulated nearly $300,000 from stock trading, dividends, and more. He then suggested I use that money to buy the house. Heck, I didn't plan to leave Robert a single cent. That's why I want you to buy it. The boy's simple gift won't transfer full ownership to you. It's obvious that Robert would claim he's entitled to a share, so if I bought it, it wouldn't be a part of his estate anymore. Thus, Robert can't lay any claim to it. I followed his advice, so the house has been in my name for a while now. Robert, presuming the house was his, probably never checked. You're lying.
The house is in my name. You told me to leave, so I tidied up and cleaned the place.
I'd been gradually renovating it, so only a cleaning was needed. I found a renter easily, too.
Hold on, so they're also awesome. Then after my money from selling the house, that's mine.
All of that money was donated to an orphanage as per my father-in-law's wishes. He'd worked in a care facility for a long time and always wanted to help the children there. So the house really is ours, but the money from selling it has already been donated.
Yes, I'm the landlord. When Robert went silent, I heard a shrill voice of a young woman yelling at him from the other end. She must have been shocked to find strangers living in the house they had the plan to return to, but I only did as Robert had asked, cleaned up and disappeared. He has no right to complain.
Oh, by the way, I've stored your belongings in a storage unit. You can pick them up whenever. I've left the keys with the real estate agent.
So much off we went a step in the morning. I way amount of Pete taking out. I'm just though you started trading stocks and made a profit 5 years ago.
Yes, and money made during a marriage is joint property. This means I have a stake in the house you bought during that time.
As expected. My father-in-law had always said that Robert was greedy and cunning when it came to money. It felt like watching the stock market, with Robert behaving exactly as predicted. I'm glad I listened to my father-in-law.
Do you not remember, Robert? We got divorced 5 years ago, remember? So any money I earned or property I bought after that isn't any of your business.
But what?
5 years ago, my father-in-law often scolded Robert, who would either ignore him or shout back. You can't do anything without Catherine, yet you act so high and mighty. In a moment of purry impulsiveness, perhaps spurred on by those words from his father-in-law, Robert had signed the divorce papers. His father-in-law then told me to file them. I had no lingering feelings for Robert, and a divorce was just what I wanted. Since my father-in-law fell ill, I had been sleeping in a traditional room next to his, so we had separate bedrooms anyway. To me, Robert had become nothing than a roommate, although my father-in-law always said he'd prefer if Robert left. I felt guilty about leaving him behind. Even after submitting the divorce papers, I didn't move out. You filed the divorce papers?
Yes, it would have been a waste not to after you filled them out. That's why you and I have been strangers for a while now.
Stop, man. But you've been living in a house all this time.
Silly stuff anyways. Well, you want to get technical, think of me as a live and maiden caregiver.
Oh wait, that's wrong. Because it's my house, so you're the freeloader, not me. Encouraged by my father-in-law, I had been studying to become a caregiver. It's better to have qualifications in this day and age. He'd advised I felt the same. I enrolled in a school offering both online and in-person courses while taking care of him. I'm planning to gain hands-on experience and earn my national caregiving certification.
So are you still making money with those stocks?
I only got into stocks because of your dad's advice and recommendations. I don't plan on doing it anymore.
I've saved up a fair bit, and they have rental income from that other house as well.
So thank you, thanks. And then what about me? I have a baby on the way and no place to live.
That's not my problem. We're strangers now after all.
As was my dad said, once he's gone, I can sell this house and use the money as a down payment to renovate my girlfriend's parents' house into a duplex.
That's how he got their blessing to marry.
I've already told you, I don't care. That's your problem, not mine.
Upon hearing my words, whether it was sensing the situation or overhearing the conversation, a shrill voice of a woman yelling could be heard from Robert's end. Robert continued to yell on the phone for a bit, but I had said all I needed to and hung up. I thought everything was finally over, but within a few days, Robert contacted me again. He said he broke up with his girlfriend and wanted to start over with me, spouting some nonsense.
Oh, that was a lie. She wasn't pregnant at all.
Well, she must have loved you so much to lie about something like that. Just to marry you, that's fortunate for you to find someone like that.
Turns out the family and home Robert had been introduced to were all fake. His girlfriend was only after the money from the house he planned to sell. After getting money, she was planning to cheat. Him and rob money. Once she realized the money wasn't coming, she yelled, "Without that money, you're just some old man. I've wasted my time," and seemingly stormed off somewhere. I had suspected something was off. It's strange for parents to just readily accept their daughter marrying a man, especially one that's already married, even if they were told about a new duplex home in return. Though I didn't know at the time that we were technically divorced, everything makes sense if they were all imposters. Robert, thinking he was attracting a younger woman and even attending the gym, was the height of absurdity. Moreover, he thought he'd get money from the house sale and spent lavishly on gifts. Now he's even in debt, and he thought by reconciling, I'd help him with his debt. Why on earth would he think that someone would take up such a ludicrous offer? To think that I finally got rid of such a dead-weight ex-husband who in their right mind would want him back. Now, I live with my mother and work in a nursing home. I strive to treat everyone with genuine kindness and respect. Every day is fulfilling. I can't help but be thankful for everything my father will take for me. I cherish the memories with my father-in-law and plan to give my best moving forward.